Well, friends, I am so excited because I have someone on the podcast today. I just love her to pieces. Every time we're together, we have so much fun. Kate and her husband Mike are a blast to hang out with. Just saying that, Kate. But before we get in talking about your new book, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. Kate Battistelli. I'm a mom of one, grandma of seven,
I know
which just
seven.
it's crazy. And I'm the crazy woman who wanted a big family, but we didn't get it. We had our one daughter, Francesca. If you listen to Christian music, you might have heard of her.
Francesca
Um,
Battistelli. You might
yeah.
have heard her name before.
Well, some have, some haven't. But yeah, we had one, wanted a big family. God said, no, you're getting one, but I get it secondhand. So I'm perfectly happy with seven. I don't know if she's going to have more. They're leaving it up to the Lord. So I imagine we'll get that call one of these days. We'll just see.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm a accidental writer. I like to tell people because I had no desire or thought I would ever do any of these things I'm doing now. But God had a different plan. And I started homeschooling in the 80s, way before it was the cool thing to do. And there were no computers. So imagine how fun that was.
Yeah.
You just get together with other women and say, well, what are you doing? What do you use? I think Becca was like the only thing back in the 80s. But I love doing that. And she's homeschooling her kids, which I'm very glad that she's able to do that because homeschooling for me is the way to go. I think if you
Hmm.
can homeschool, it makes sense.
Hmm.
Not everybody can, but if you're able to, I highly recommend it. But now, I'm a grandma, a mom, married to Mike, who, yeah, you said he's very
He
funny.
is
He's
so
he's the life of
fun.
the party
Like,
wherever
he
we
is so
go.
fun. Yeah, I love him.
He has fun wherever he goes.
I love it. Okay, so tell us about your new book.
Yeah, my new book is all about the empty nest, and I call it the after party of the empty nest because
Mhm.
we look at the empty nest like it's going to be this big, hard, awful thing, and it's hard in the beginning. Nobody really tells you you're going to be really lonely. This is going to hit you like a ton of bricks for a while. But then there's a whole other side of this. There's all of a sudden there's freedom. There's more time. There's more money. We took our grandkids to Chick-fil-A recently and it was $100
Yes,
at
isn't it
Chick-fil-A.
crazy?
I mean, it was
For
crazy.
one meal, for one
Yeah,
meal.
for lunch. And I imagine, you want to take your kids to dinner. It's not cheap. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. Now you and your husband could go to a nice restaurant without all the noise and craziness. So there's just so much more to the empty nest than we think. And the subtitle of the book is Mom is Not Your Only Name, because
Mhm.
it's not. Motherhood is a season and we're always mom, but that's not always how we're defined. I like to say you're mom and what's the
Right,
and?
right.
What are you going to do now? Because the Lord has you on this planet to be a mom, but not just a mom. And there's a whole other reason you were created. This is the time now to find out that reason. And that can be tough for a lot of women. That can take some time. Others are right in it. They're doing that thing. You're already doing the things God has called you to do. When all your kids are gone, you'll keep doing that. But a
Right.
lot of moms don't have that. They've been
Mhm.
so invested in motherhood and for me that was how it was. I was so single focused on our daughter because when she was a teenager we were trying to help her just navigate the whole music thing.
Right.
What's going to happen with this? Where is this going? So I was 100% focused on that. So when she left, it was just I just didn't know what to do because I'd never planned for it, and that was my mistake. So that's one of the motivating factors of the book is to tell women, look, now's the time to start planning, especially if you still have a couple kids home and they're starting to go one by one. Start digging in with the Lord now. What is
Mhm.
that next thing?
Yeah, and really, because you made a conscious decision. Because I want to go back a little bit to you had a music career,
Mhm.
you were on some off-Broadway stuff, I want you to talk about that, but then you put that aside to
Yeah.
focus on homeschooling and motherhood, and then you're like, "Wait," you kinda get lost in it. I think so many times, like you said, after the kids are grown, I'm going to do this, or they just don't really, maybe people aren't even thinking about that, but it
Mhm.
does take time and sacrifice to either homeschool or just be a mom and to do all the
Mhm.
practices, all the games, all
Yes.
the school plays, all the things. So talk a little bit about your kind of like putting that aside for a while. Well, first of all, what you were up to. putting that aside, and what that season was for you.
During the
Yeah,
empty
homeschooling.
nest?
Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah,
first of all, talk about what you did before and then why you decided to kind of put that aside to be a mom
okay.
and yeah.
Okay, well, we're going way back to the
Yeah, oh
1980s.
yeah. This
Oh
is
my
so
gosh.
this is so fascinating, and I'm yeah, I've talked to you about this before, but I'm just fascinated
You want me to
by all
tell you the
this.
whole story? It's not
Yeah,
real long.
not the whole, like, you
Oh,
know what
okay,
I mean? But you could
okay.
tell a lot of the
Okay.
story. Yeah.
Well, I was a young actress in New York, and I was cast as the understudy to the leading lady in a big national tour of The King and I. Hopefully,
Mhm.
your listeners have heard of that musical. If not, go rent the movie. Starring Yul Brynner, who was the original king in the 50s with the movie
Yes.
on Broadway, and then he just kept doing it for years, just kept reviving it. Well, I was cast as the understudy to the leading lady. I was in my mid 20s, and I thought, this is great. I'll make money. I'll see the country. This is awesome, knowing that understudies rarely get to go on. But you learn your part. You know what you're doing if that day ever comes. Well, that day came about a couple months into the run of the show. I got to go on for the leading lady for 2 weeks, and I thought, wow, that was cool. That was I can add that credit to my resume. And about a month later, I get a call from one of the producers saying, Mr. Brenner has bought out the leading lady's 2-year contract, sent her back to New York, and he wants you in the role. I mean, I have to tell you that never ever happens because
Right.
I was in my 20s. I didn't have that high level experience in the theater world. I'd done a lot. I was good. I could sing all those things, but they always bring somebody in from New York, always. So it was a complete shock, but I see it now. It's interesting. I see it sort of a prophetic picture of how the Lord will lift
Mhm.
you up out
Mhm.
of obscurity or out of doing something just to do some whole new crazy thing. So, but the best part is my husband joined the tour as the associate conductor. So we met, fell in love across the footlights, got married, then got saved. I was 29 when I got saved. So I did not live my life following the Lord. I
Mhm.
pretty much everything you shouldn't do. I
Right.
broke most of those 10 commandments. But,
Mhm.
I was a heathen. I wasn't saved. Well, we met the Lord and we stayed in New York. We were continuing to do our career. Mike was conducting on Broadway, Radio City, all that stuff. And we had Franny a year later, and about a year after that, we just were getting this sense in our spirit and we were such new Christians, we didn't really understand the Holy Spirit, but
Right.
we both were getting this sense that we're supposed to lay this down. It was very clear God had a different plan for us, a different
Mm.
life. I just wanted to be famous. I wanted to win a Tony, all that stuff. And God was like, that's not the direction I want you to go. I want you to lay that down, which you just don't do. You've spent your life. Mike has a doctorate in music. You don't walk away from that. But God
Mhm.
told us, kind of like Abraham, Abraham, leave everything you know, go to a land that I'll show you. I'm not going to tell you, you just go. And Abraham did. And it changed the world. God
Yeah.
accounted it to him for righteousness. So I think when you obey, especially in those hard things, God is always going to bring it back. You're going to see the fruit of that. And I see
Mhm.
that with our daughter, he couldn't take that through me, because I wanted it for myself. Her goal is to worship him, to make his name known. So I think God was thinking, I can use her. I couldn't really use you that way. I've got other things for you, but I
Yeah.
can use her. And I think that's the fruit sometimes of laying things down, of taking that hard thing, obey, make sure it's the Lord, don't just do it unless you are certain God has confirmed it, and get people to pray for you, all that stuff. But yeah, it was crazy. Just a complete 180. We were from New Jersey, so we moved back to New Jersey for a while, then to Florida. She was raised in Orlando, and started homeschooling, just started being on the worship team at church, and Mike had a home business. So just doing all the regular things in life and going, well, okay, I guess this is it. And then, just all the stuff with our daughter happened. And then I'm an empty nest mom going, okay, now what? That was
Yeah,
fun.
because you laid it down. That's why I wanted you to tell some of that story is because, like, there was this career. Like, you were
Yeah,
Yul Brynner. I mean, he's like touring with you can't get bigger than that.
crazy.
Very much bigger than that. And so it was you were laying things down. I think all of us, whether it's a really big lay down, like laying things down for our kids, or a little thing, like
Yeah.
we were making choices. It's like I mean, for me, my
Hmm.
grandma still lives with us. She's
Hmm.
95. I still have 3 kids at home out of 10. we're on the last three. They're 17, 15, and 14. So we're like, we're moving there, but there's a lot of no's I have to say to a lot of different things. And
Yeah.
so you are, and then you wake up and like, okay, what do I what do I do now? So what did that look
Really.
like for you? And how did you find the after party in that season of I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah, it was just a crazy time because I was miserable, as many moms are. That hits you and you really don't know, because no one can fully explain it until you go through it, and then it's just it was hard for me. Some women
Mhm.
it's not. There's some women that I've been waiting for this moment for years, and now you go, my husband and I, or I'm going to do my thing, and that's great for the women that are like that. That's a blessing. That's not the majority. But
Mhm.
for me, the thing that really started getting me out of it just was volunteering. I thought
Mm.
there was a great single moms ministry. I started volunteering with them. It was they really were doing a lot of wonderful things for these moms, and I made friends with the gals that were volunteers. So, but it gets you out of yourself. So that's one of I have a chapter on volunteering, how important that is to get you focusing on something other than yourself. So I
Mhm.
started doing that. And then just the whole crazy writing thing came when God literally dared me to write my first book, which made no sense because I didn't want to. I knew I could write, but no, I'm not doing that, God. God was
Yeah.
like, yeah, you are, and I did. And I think that's one of the things that when we obey in those kind of things that God's saying, you're going way outside your comfort zone and you're going to do this, then he can use it, and I think he really honors that. I think it's all about obedience. It doesn't matter how big the sacrifice
Mhm.
is or how small. It's where was your heart in that? Were you willing to say yes to me? I mean, that to me, that's the whole thing. But yeah, so that all started. I tell women all the time, if you told me 15 years ago that Kate, in 15 years, you'll have written 3 books, you'll be part of a successful podcast, you'll be speaking around the country, I'd have said, you're crazy. That's not me. But God says that is you. And God
Mhm.
says that about all of us. What is he saying? What's he saying your name is now? I can call myself an author, which just blows my mind, but because I obeyed, I stepped out and I did the thing. And so, what's the name that he has for you? For the women that are listening, what is that other thing? And if you don't know, the only way to find out is really through prayer, seeking the Lord,
Mhm.
saying, God, is it that thing I've wanted to do since high school? That thing that's just been in there all the time? Is it something completely outside my comfort zone? We don't know really until we start praying and digging in with the Lord to figure out what is my next thing, because you've got at least 40 years, I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully more, but at least that much time before you're done on this earth. So how are you going to spend those years?
Yeah, and when you look back on the parenthood part of it, it's such a short time. Like
So
now
short.
that, I mean, we have grandkids that are teenagers. Like my oldest grandson's gonna be 14. And I'm like, wait. So like he's
How did
almost
that
like
happen?
an adult. Like,
I
so I
know.
think that season is so because it's a lot of work, a lot of focus, a lot of attention. But the season is short. Like I love how you said that there's like 40 years or
Hmm.
more you could have
Yeah.
afterwards. But I think one thing is we always compare ourselves. We always compare our weaknesses to someone else's strengths. We always
Hmm.
will, the doubts come up. Like, I can't do that. I can't do that. But I love Henry Blackaby said, see what God is doing and join him. And
Hmm.
usually it's other people will say, how about this? Or can you come and help me with this? Or have you ever thought about this? I think, were you invited to speak at a homeschool conference? Is that how you got your first like connection into that, getting your book published and getting speaking going?
I think so, yeah, or some kind of conference. Yeah, we start meeting other people and getting to know. Okay, what is this world about? Because I had no clue about
Mhm.
this world, but I do somewhat more. If you can ever have a full clue, that's all
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it was through a couple conferences that I went to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to like take those little baby steps and
Mhm.
realize like everyone who starts whatever it is, they're all starting simple. They're all
That's
starting
right.
small. We don't have to immediately jump in and do these big things. But if someone's asking you, like, hey, have you ever thought about writing a book about that? Or hey, could you come and help me with this thing over here? Or I
Mhm.
would love your advice about that. I mean, people can see stuff in us often that
Yeah,
we can't see ourselves.
exactly. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
totally true, and it always kinda shocks me when they see something and I go, "Oh, really? You see me that way?" Because we don't see ourselves that way, I typically just see the things that I wouldn't want people to see. We put our perfectly curated posts on Instagram and, like, I'll
Mhm.
put up a recipe or a kitchen thing, and I'm like, "They should see how messy my kitchen is." I'm showing them how really nice this looks and how easy it is to make. Oh, you don't turn that camera. Show and show my counters and sink, but because we do that, we want people to see us well. But yeah, it's always surprising when somebody says something to me that's really nice and complimentary and I go, "Oh, really?" Because I think we don't know how the Lord sees us. That's
Mhm.
probably one of the biggest things, because my husband will say that all the time. If I'm down or in some kind of mood, he'll say, you need to know how Jesus sees you. And that's
Mhm.
hard for me, because I don't know, not that I don't want to believe it. I just, knowing how I was and who I was, it's just hard for me to take that in. But
Mhm.
we need to know what Jesus says about us, what he calls us,
Yeah.
what are the names he has for us.
I love that. Okay, so if there's a mom, okay, so graduation's coming, and there's the two types of moms. Like there's probably more, but I definitely see like posts on Facebook or Instagram. There's the ones that are like, "We're done," and they're
Yeah,
like cheering and they're like jump in the air, and then the other one's like, "Why did they do this to me? My baby's all grown." Like there's like,
my life is over.
totally. My life is, but they're very clear. And the ones I feel bad kind of for the ones that are like, I'm so sad, and I'm sure I've done this before too, that he's all grown now and my little boy, because I'm thinking like how does your son or daughter feel like when you're when
Yeah,
you're saying those types of things
exactly.
too? So there
Yeah.
is the ones, but so say there's the graduation's coming up, mixed feelings. Maybe part of us is like, "Yay," but mostly they're like, "What now?" Like
Yeah.
they're looking at the fall. They're
Mhm.
maybe not going to have kids at home. They're not going to be have their schedule full.
Yeah.
What encouragement, just as they're entering the season, do you give to people?
I would say just start thinking about that time. You know it's coming. Don't just wait for it and sit in misery. I talk to women that, oh yeah, this has been going on for 3 years. I'm like, 3 years. It's time to think about what's next. So if you know you've got a senior or lots of kids leaving, start thinking about what is it. Start praying.
Hmm.
Pick up that hobby you used to do. Maybe you're going to turn that into a small business. Think about, man, I've always wanted to be involved in politics. Well, go find a politician to volunteer for. You know what I mean? There's so many
Hmm.
things you can start doing now as you start thinking, because I believe if we ask the Lord, he'll start to stir that up in us. What's that next thing? Okay, something you loved when you were in school. Maybe you're supposed to go back to school. Start thinking about that, looking at schools that, and there's so much on the computer, on social media and everywhere, YouTube. We didn't have that. None of us, well, a lot of the women listening might, but a lot of us didn't have those kind of resources. Today you can put on YouTube and learn anything. There's a Facebook group for anything you can
It's so
imagine.
true.
So if
Yeah.
something's interesting you, get out there gardening, whatever it is. Just start doing something, because you do not want to sit in that misery. You're allowed to. I mean, we're all going to have those nights where we're crying, or that's fine. There's no harm in that. Don't get stuck there. I would say that's the biggest thrust of the book. Don't get thrust there. God has another purpose, but it's your job to figure that out.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of people, I mean, if you're hearing conversations about this, there must be like you're kind of seeing it out there a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it's out there, especially this season. That's why I was glad the book came out in March, because it's before Mother's Day. Hopefully, moms can, or maybe even the children of moms, can see the book and see the value in it for a mom that's facing the empty nest. But yeah, it's spring is tough. I think fall is even tougher when they actually go, and there's that
Mhm.
final hug or that final piece of advice, whatever it is. But one thing I want to mention, you want your kids to see that you're doing okay. You
Yeah.
don't want them thinking, oh, mom is just miserable. I feel so guilty. We don't want that for our kids. We want them to see, man, mom is really doing something. She's taking this time and using it well. So be careful how you share with your kids, or calling them and texting them all the time. They've got to live their life. You raise them to go. That's the hardest part of motherhood, because
Mhm.
they're going to go, but that's what we're raising them to do, to be those godly, upright citizens that are going to change the world. So when we go, good job, mom, pat yourself on the back and go get a massage.
Yes, absolutely, and I love so I know because like with Francesca, you talked about, she's young and you're helping her navigate the music world, and then you see, oh, look at her songs are getting played, and like all the cool, wonderful things is what we want for our kids. But
Yeah.
how has she encouraged you as you've like, I don't know, should I write this book or should I do this? I mean, has she come back to encourage you in kind of similar ways that you encouraged her along the journey?
Yeah, she has. She's been very supportive. She wrote the forewords for my first two books. So I think for her, seeing that I'm okay, because we were so close, we did homeschooling mom, you're with them all the time.
Hmm.
Every day, every ballet lesson, everything, I was there. So, but I think she's proud of what I'm doing because she saw, oh, mom's okay. She's going to be fine. She's doing now her own thing. I don't think she ever saw that coming for me, the whole writing thing either. But now that
Yeah.
and she's a really good writer. I'm thinking she needs to write a book. I'm sure she will. She will one of these days. But yeah, she's been
Well, she
supportive,
just
and I'm
has 7
glad.
kids right now,
Well,
so
that's not that big a deal. With it,
no,
one
that'd
of
be
them's a new baby. So, oh
I
my
know.
goodness, yeah,
It's so cute. Every time I see on your page, you're like, "Oh, another new sweet baby." I love, but that one looks like so much like you, I think. He's like the
the little
3rd or
girl.
4th boy? No, boy. The little boy with the blonde hair,
Oh
I think
yeah,
looks so much like you. Like, I
he's
don't
so
know.
cute.
It's
He's a
they're
sweetheart.
also it's so fun to see that, and to see that I mean, someday Francesca's gonna be an empty nester. I mean, it's gonna be a
Yes,
while because she just has a newborn baby, but,
yeah,
you know, we just stepping out and having this legacy of following God,
yeah,
doing the things that He's asking us to do, um, stepping out scared sometimes and sure, taking those baby steps, like all the things we encourage our kids to do.
yeah.
"Mom, now it's your time to
Turn.
do it."
Yeah. And to find there's so much more in you than you thought.
Mhm.
There's so much more gifting, things that you maybe never imagined or thought about, like me. There's more in there, but we just have to find out, Lord, what is it? What do you have for me? He'll tell you. For those
Yeah.
of you that don't know, he will show you, because I mean, you think about this season in history, that God
Mhm.
saved us till the end. I believe Jesus will be back, hopefully in the next decade or so. And he saved us till this crazy time in history.
Mm.
It's only going to get darker and darker, but he put us here. So, what are you doing, mom? What are you doing to build a kingdom?
Yeah.
I mean, I push it pretty hard because we have to think that way. There's not much time to get people on the boat. You know what I mean? So we have to be thinking about, okay, this is not about me. This is about what can I do to build the kingdom, Lord.
Yeah, and unless we look at ourselves and are concerned about ourselves, that's where those connections are made. I mean,
Yeah,
this person sitting next to us in the plane seat, or just the mom at the
absolutely.
park, or
Hmm.
all the places. There are people that need hope, and we forget that. We forget that they're just walking around, just
Yeah.
so unsure, without hope, and that we can be hope to them. And if it's
Amen.
wherever we're volunteering,
Mhm.
they will see us as a trustworthy person that can give them hope. And it's
Yeah.
just amazing how God can use us, but also all the skills that we develop in motherhood, right?
Yeah.
So talk a lot because, like, we learn balancing schedules,
Hmm.
interacting with people. I mean, and we can use all the skills that we've developed. I think sometimes we give ourselves less credit. Like, I only have
Oh,
my
yeah.
high school diploma. I went
Yeah.
to
I didn't
college.
graduate college.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a year and a half. That's
Yeah.
I went to college for a year and a half, don't have any college degree, but the skills, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I could do that. I could do that." Like,
Yeah.
but you have to realize that they are skills.
Hmm. That's a good point. Yeah, and those skills may be the exact thing God wants to use,
Mhm.
for starting a business or volunteer. It can be anything. Even mentoring is a good thing to think about. You're in this season, you've been through it. Who's the younger mom that you can start speaking into that might be struggling? You can help her out. She needs you. Mentoring, that's a whole other chapter in the book because we're not doing it as we should be doing it. But think about who is someone younger than you that you can help get through motherhood, the hard parts.
Yeah, yeah. I was just out to lunch with a pastor's wife, at an event I was speaking at, and she's talking about all the activities. I said, "Well, we just had to make a hard choice and choose one activity per child per year.
Yeah.
We have if you have multiple kids, you just have
Yeah.
to choose because you can't do all the things for all the kids.
Yeah.
And it's up to her. Like you could just speak truth. You could speak things that you've learned. You're not telling people what to do.
No,
They're still making their own decisions, but maybe you're giving them something to think about that they hadn't thought about that way before.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is your hope as this book's going out there and it's connecting with people? Like, what is the heart message that you hope that they will put it down? Like, okay, okay.
I hope they'll see that they can do it.
Hmm.
That this is actually a really great time of life because all of a sudden you can do so many things you couldn't do before. You're free. You're free as a bird. They've left the nest, but you can leave it too. You have to leave
Mm,
it. You can't stay stuck in that nest. Just like we have a robin up in our eaves here, and she is just there. She is solid on that nest, but she will kick those birds out. It's interesting how birds will often push their babies out,
hmm.
and your babies have gone. So know that there is so much more if you take the time to figure out what it is. There's hope. The empty nest mom is not your only name.
I love that so much. Okay, Kate. So tell us, where can listeners go to find out about you and all the things you're doing and the book and to get more information? And we'll put those in the show notes too, but where can
Okay.
people go?
Yeah, well, katebattistelli.com is my website. You can find out a lot about me. And just on social media, everything's Kate Battistelli. So there's nothing different than that. And you get the book at Amazon, most places that you buy books. So I hope you
Yeah.
will enjoy it,
Yeah, and,
and
and think about it when you're going to buy a graduation card and gift
yeah,
cards. This is a great to be pick up for the mom and just like, yeah, a sweet little get a candle and some bath salts in the book.
yeah,
Uh,
that's a great idea.
great book. Well, Kate, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Trisha. I loved it.